Good evening, Cheeseheads, and welcome to the Cheese Room podcast. Something a little bit different today. This is part of sort of like we're going to be doing some specials over the World Cup. So we thought we'd start tonight, me and HG, by just going through Gareth Southgate's England squad today. So we'll try and be as balanced as we can with our views on some of these players. But how are you, HG? All right?
Yeah, I'm all right. Today was a long day at work. We had some diversity training. Where they were talking about gender and various things, which are obviously important. But yeah, it was a long day, so I'm happy to be home and talking some football.
Yeah, some of those points they put across are just called common sense, aren't they? But
it felt like it. It really did.
Yeah.
And I'm sitting there, and the whole thing's in German, so I'm learning words because I don't know what these words are in German. Of course, I don't. But yeah, it was just it felt like it was one of those 3-hour trainings that could have been done in 10 minutes in a PowerPoint. Just send me the PowerPoint. I'll figure it out. If you're just going to read the PowerPoint in front of me, no, that's not like when you do that to teachers. We should have all been sitting there going, "This is not educating. What the heck is this? I could read this at home in 5 minutes and we'd be done." Anyway, I don't want to talk about that. Let's talk about football.
Yeah, all good fun and games. Anyway, so World Cup starts for England a week Monday against Iran. So Southgate named his squad today. What were before we get the squad he picked up? What were your hopes? What were you hoping to see? What did you think we'd see?
I will be honest. What we saw is not what I thought we'd saw. So it's like the things I was hoping for. I did want to see Maddison in the squad. Because I think he deserves it. He's been one of, if not the best English player in the Premier League this season.
Yeah.
So on form alone, he would deserve it. And personally, I would have liked to see Sterling not in it because I don't rate him.
Never going to happen.
Exactly. So look, I know that's never going to happen, but that would have been my kind of possible pipe dream that would have been fun to see. But yeah, it actually was relatively good. Usually, I feel like these World Cup announcements or these squad announcements, all you do is talk about the people that haven't made it. And for whatever reason, that hasn't been the case today. At least I haven't seen too much about that.
No, I mean, I think I spent sort of most of the game. I don't care. I'll be happy when they play, but I'm not bothered what the squad is. Then getting nearer 2:00, I was like switching radio channels and checking my phone, seeing like what was going on. Were you hoping Sessegnon would get in, or?
No. I suppose I was interested to see if we were going to take a second specialist left-sided defender.
Yeah, specialist.
Because I think that would have been a smart thing to do. But I guess that we've seen. I mean, I'm assuming Trippier would be the person over there if Shaw's not fit, and Trippier's done it many times. So you can understand why Southgate was not willing to get a second specialist. But I always think it's a good thing to do.
Fair play to him.
Especially when you've got an extra 3 players. It's not 23, it's 26 now. There's no reason to leave yourself possibly short.
Yeah, I mean, I think he made the squad of 55, didn't he? Was there talk?
No, really?
I mean, Ashley Young did. There's this imaginary. Well, I don't know if it's imaginary, but there must have been a base of 55 players, and Ashley Young was in there. So I think I read somewhere that Sessegnon was in it. Lewis Dunk.
It would make sense, I suppose, if you're looking for 5 players for each position in a 55-man squad, then perhaps Sessegnon is one of those. It's just, yeah, I'm not surprised he's not in it.
We were just talking. I just mentioned there. I looked at our defenders, and we'll go through those in a minute. We're talking about I don't think then it's a notable omission, but when I look at our centre backs, I quite like Lewis Dunk from Brighton. But I mean, he's never going to get picked because I bet he's never had a sniff for England, really, has he? So as I said that came to mind. But so let's get into it, HG. Let's get the first. This is the first slide. So we've got goalkeepers: Pickford, Pope, Ramsdale. No surprises there, really, was there?
Surprises, no. Like, personally, I think that Henderson is a better keeper than Ramsdale. And that's not just the anti-Arsenal feeling that might be.
No, I'm with you.
I just think that Ramsdale looks a better keeper because he's playing behind a better defence. I think if you judge him He's still pretty ropey at crosses. I don't think he's the best shot stopper in the world. So, I mean, to me, he's the third choice of those three. So it doesn't really matter. But the goalkeepers, it was 3 out of 4. That was it.
Yeah.
I couldn't think of a fifth if you asked me now who might be the next in line. So
maybe Forster. I know he played last night and he hasn't had many games, but like you said, I can't really think of many more. Who's the under-21 goalkeeper?
I have no idea.
No, me.
I have no idea.
No.
Like, I think they've got is it Bursic? But I remember, was it 4 years ago? I think Jack Butland went as second in line. So these are certainly Pickford was pretty raw 4 years ago.
Joe Hart.
Joe Hart might have been there. Yeah, I don't know. I just think that it was clear that Pickford's going to play.
Yeah,
right. And
all
if
day
Pickford
long.
can't play, Pope is going to play.
Yeah,
and Ramsdale is going to be practicing his Qatari food because that's pretty much all he's going to do. I mean,
I think Pickford will get the nod from Southgate because obviously he likes who he trusts, and Pickford probably has got distribution over Pope. Do you agree with that, or do you think? I think Pope's a better goalkeeper.
Yes, I know it's a massive part of the game, distribution now.
Yeah.
And Pickford clearly is pretty good with the ball at his feet.
Yeah.
But I don't want him to be good at the ball with his feet. I want him to be
saves.
good at saving. And so, Pickford's had a good year. If this had happened in the summer, I'd be probably a bit annoyed that Pickford's going to go as number one. But he's done well for Everton pretty much since Lampard took over. I think.
Yeah.
I mean, he made some great saves to help keep him up at the end of last season. So, it makes sense. But I don't look at any of those three. I mean, it's interesting that certainly in Germany, Germans laugh at the idea of English goalkeepers because they think that all English goalkeepers are terrible. It's like this, that we've never had a good one. And certainly when I was a kid, it was, we had Chilton and Chris Woods and even Clements. And to me, those were all pretty good goalkeepers. But
Seaman was decent. Seaman was a decent keeper, wasn't he?
Yeah.
I know he had a few ricks.
It's just interesting that, for whatever reason, Germans see goalkeepers in England as being two things that just don't go together. So I wonder what they think about the three we have. But I suppose it doesn't really matter, does it?
No, I mean, I know you'll probably say no, and a lot of people won't. Do you think Pickford? Obviously with Lloris being in the last couple of years of it, I'm not saying I want Pickford. Could you see Spurs trying to get Pickford?
I saw a list of possibles that seems to be doing the rounds.
Meslier was one of them, wasn't he?
On it. To me, if you're looking for a goalkeeper, everyone is a possible. I mean, if you want to be that kind of pedantic about it, I could see Spurs being interested. I could see Pickford thinking it's a step up. But I'm kind of along with you. I think Spurs are going to try and get a goalkeeper from somewhere else.
Yeah.
I don't think we're that fussed about our first choice being homegrown. The
No.
second and third, fair enough, it makes sense.
Yeah.
But I think you try to get the best goalkeeper you can, and I don't think any of those that we've been linked with should be considered the best goalkeeper we can get.
No. Anyway, to get back onto that, Pickford, I think Pickford will start. And to be fair to him, I don't think he's ever really let England down, has he? When you've watched England, he hasn't really had. You can see why Southgate sticks with him. He's never really had a stinker for England, has he?
No, and you go back to the Euros final, right? Jorginho has the chance to win it for Italy from the spot, and Pickford makes the save.
Yeah,
a save that no one thought he was going to make.
No,
really,
big save.
Apart from Pickford kind of talking himself up about how he was going to do it. That was an incredible moment, and I think when that save was made, I thought we were going to go on and do it. I thought it was that vital.
Yeah,
I know. Okay, I know, but Pickford's never let England down, and he'll start deliberately. I think we all just wish that Pickford was maybe 2 or 3 inches taller. If he was, none of us would really. We wouldn't be having this massive discussion about it.
No. I mean, and club in his club form, he's prone to ricks at club form, isn't he? That's where he's made mistakes. For England, he's never let them down. So move on to defenders then. Any notable omissions in that defence there, HG? Anyone you'd like to see?
I mean, they're all names that we know he trusts. I mean, I say that. Alexander-Arnold doesn't have a great record for England. I think that's mostly because of the system that Southgate likes to use. I think if Reece James is fit, Alexander-Arnold doesn't go. Yeah. So it's that's a bit awkward. The same with Ben White. He's had a good season for Arsenal.
Yeah.
I think he's a very good kind of replacement for Stones if Stones is out.
Yeah.
But I don't, again, no one really thought until a couple of days ago that he was going to make it. That there may be someone else in line. But the others, Cody, Dyer, Maguire, Shaw, I mean, they are Southgate staples.
Yeah.
Absolute staples. So I don't see too many surprises there. But I feel awful that Reece James, who is our best
Right. Yeah.
right-sided defender, wing back, whatever you want to say, can't go because he would have been an absolute stud.
I mean, yeah, for me, I look at those. I look at, like you said, Cody, Dyer, Maguire, Stones, and they are Southgate men, aren't they? Like the other names they're talking about, Tomori and Gay from Crystal Palace. Do you think either of those two were anywhere near getting in that squad, or do you think Southgate just thought, I'm just picking what I know?
I would like to think Tomori had a pretty good shot just because he's been in a few squads recently and Ben White hasn't, right?
Yeah.
So you've got that in itself was probably a big call that Southgate felt he had to make. Why he went for White over Tomori, I don't know. I mean, I know there was a Champions League game between Chelsea and Milan, and apparently Tomori didn't play very well in that, and that was in front of Southgate. But I think when you're getting to the there's 9 defenders there. If you're getting to the final 1 or final 2, I think Southgate's thinking, it doesn't really matter too much.
Yeah.
Maybe this is a bit political, but if he picks Tomori over White, there's a whole load of Arsenal fans will be upset. Right?
Yeah.
And that would make bigger news because the press, rightly or wrongly, are very Premier League oriented. And so if you're going to pick players that aren't in the Premier League, there is this, well, if Tomori was any good, then Chelsea wouldn't have sold him. There's kind of I do believe there's an underlying kind of belief system there, and you can avoid all of that by picking players from the Premier League. And like Connor Cody 6 months ago, Wolves don't want him. He's going nowhere, and suddenly he's had a good half a season with Everton, and he's back in. And we all know that Connor Cody he talks a good game. People like having him around. He's one of those players who you can see maybe being a manager later on because he understands it. Connor Cody's not going to play any minutes in this tournament, but he's there for other things.
Yeah, I listened to an interview with Holland. Is it Steve Holland, Southgate's number 2, during the Euros? It was on Radio 5 Live. They sort of asked him who he'd been really impressed with, and he said Connor Cody was like his was absolutely fantastic with that group of players. He said he hadn't played a minute, but he was just brilliant in the changing rooms with everyone else. And I'm surprised he's taken Cody and Dyer. I thought it would be one of those two would go.
No, I mean, again, I think that maybe if Dyer hadn't had a good half a season, I mean,
half a season, you mean?
Half.
He's had
If Dyer hadn't started the season so well for Spurs, he wouldn't be there, right? And Cody would be there instead, and maybe James would be there, and we'd be taking 4 right backs.
Yeah,
I mean, genuinely, that's more than possible.
Yeah, I mean, I would have thought he would have taken Cody or Dyer, and then one of maybe Gay or Tomori. I didn't think he obviously picked Cody and Dyer, which I find quite surprising because if you pick you'd never go a back 2 of Dyer and Maguire, would you? I mean,
never say never. I mean, you wouldn't choose it, maybe, but never say never here.
I'd fancy my chances with a long ball over the top against them too. But I mean, Shaw looks like he'll be taking the left back or left wing back, whatever slot they play, won't they? Walker. Walker been injured. Do you think come the first game Walker's going to start? What position do you think Southgate sees him in?
I think Southgate will play him as the right-sided centre back. I think in his mind, Trippier's the wing back, and Walker's got the pace to cover him.
Yeah,
and he said, I mean, at the last World Cup, he said he designed the 3-5-2 they played then. He designed it because there wasn't much pace at the back, and he wanted Walker's pace to be in it, and he couldn't really do that if he's playing as a fullback. So it's slightly annoying to me that he's stuck with that system because there are other potentially better centre backs that are now available. Rather than forcing Walker to play a little bit out of position just to cover Stones and Maguire, but you can't argue with the results really that Southgate's got in tournaments, semi-final and final in two goes.
Yeah,
that's really good. So it's like, if you want to twist and say, look, we might create a better football team by having different players.
Yeah.
And you might, but you might end up shooting yourself in the foot and not being as pragmatic as Southgate clearly is.
Yeah. Rio Ferdinand was on Five Live again just before the squad was announced. And I think they caught him on the up a bit, but they said, who would you play as your back three? He said Walker right hand side, Stones in the middle, and Shaw on the left.
It's funny. I've often thought that Luke Shaw is a better left-sided centre back than he would be a full-back or a wing-back. Just because, it's not just the size of him, but he's still quite, like, you're not asking him to do too much. Like, if we had an actual, like, a left-footed Trippier to play on the wing-back, I'd happily have Shaw there. For a long time, I toyed about having Max Kilman around because he's a left-footed centre-back.
I've seen you say that, yeah.
And we need that. And, like, I feel like at any level, but especially at international level, if you've got players that play with each other week in, week out, it's going to strengthen your squad in some ways, right? So you look at those players, obviously Walker and Stones play together, Shaw and Maguire play together, then you start to struggle with suddenly it's a bit, oh, where are they from? If you had Kilman in there, because he spent so long playing with Cody, like, those two would help each other out.
Yeah.
So it's an interesting dilemma, but I think that 9 is pretty, it's that would have been the easiest to
pick. Yeah. I mean, like you say Cody, I think I'd play Cody. I think I'd play him in the.
Really?
But the trouble is, it's sort of like in your head, you're thinking, I think of the players I'd pick, but then I can't, because of it Southgate and what we've been used to. I'm sort of thinking, but he's definitely going to play him, so you can't play him with him. Do you get what I mean?
I do. Like, I think that in some ways, like, I don't watch Everton games. Yeah, I might watch a Champions League game that Man City are playing. I might see the other players, but I don't tend to watch other Premier League games that much anymore. Yeah, and so like the Cody that I'm remembering is the Cody who played in the back three at Wolves, and obviously he, if anything, he's probably playing better now for Everton. It's an interesting one, but those 9, I think. Hopefully they will change for the next World Cup. I will say that this will be for some of them their last
go. Yeah. And it'll be Walker, Stones, Maguire, fitness depending. If you ask me,
certainly when it comes to the bigger games in the group, I don't think we'll risk Walker for the first game, but maybe for the next 2. But if it's not Walker, it will be interesting what he does. I think then it would probably be Stones, Dyer, and Maguire. If I'm honest.
When you look at Wales, and obviously we played against Bournemouth the other week, and they had Kiefer Moore up front. Bale will play. Well, I'm not sure how Wales play, but I mean, he hasn't got the pace he used to have. So you could keep Walker. Might not be needed until the group stages. Really, Eddie. I mean, what have USA have got? Pulisic, have they, with pace up front?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think. Weirdly enough, I feel like Walker's pace is there to kind of cover our weaknesses more than to stop the opponents. If that makes any sense. Like Bale, when I watched Bale play for LAFC at the weekend, he came on as a sub and basically just stood in the middle of the pitch. Right, and everyone else was trying to get him the chance, and they did, and he scored from it.
Yeah,
I don't think he's going to do that for Wales. I think like this. If we're talking about last hurrahs, this is Gareth Bale's moment, right? Like, I really do think he's going to try like we haven't seen him try in a long time, because he knows for Wales he's their main man, he's the talisman, he's the reason they're there, right? So it's what Wales's team will be kind of based around just getting Gareth Bale the ball as much as they can, and I think he'll want it. But I think the pace at the back that we don't really have there. I mean, Walker's the only one I think that you could consider as being fast, but I think it is more to help England's team set up rather than to stop the opponents.
I think if Bale really has a go, he'll probably end up injuring himself, but it's another story.
If that happens, that's great for England because we play him last, right? So
right then. So into the midfield, looking at that, what do you think? I said Phillips will get picked. A lot of people are like, no, hey, the bloke ain't played. How can he get picked? So I'm telling you now, if he's fit, he gets picked. Boom.
It's like Walker, right?
Yeah,
Like Walker's been out for a couple of months. Phillips has been out basically all the season so far. By all logic, those two really shouldn't be there. But again, when you've got a few extra players to pick, you can make those calls. Like,
yeah,
you know, if we went with 23 fit players and 3 that are coming back, okay, right? You
yeah,
can't really do that if there's only 23 players, but with 26 you can. So I don't think Calvin Phillips will play much at the World Cup. I mean, I really don't. It's only going to happen like if it's a knockout game or the Wales game and we're trying to hold on to something, then I think he might come on. But I don't see him
yeah.
starting anything. So I look at those 6 midfielders. Like,
Rice is your guaranteed starter, isn't he?
yeah, to me, Rice
Rice
and
is,
Bellingham are the best
yeah,
two.
but
Henderson,
Rice is guaranteed.
yeah, and so like, I think Gallagher's very, very lucky to be
Yeah,
there. I don't think he's really done much since since the second half of the Palace season.
yeah. I mean,
Was
what's
like
his who would his competition have been? HG for that
Ward
position in that
Prowse.
midfield.
I think
Yeah,
Ward
and
Prowse.
yeah, and I'll be honest. I think dead ball delivery fantastic, but apart from that, I think he's very average.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, go on.
I think he has got great delivery, but and if he's got time on the ball like last year when he put those 2 crosses in against us, good. But I think his all round play. I think when they were talking about Spurs going from another people going from like 75 million, grossly overpriced and overrated. But yeah, if it's a toss of the coin between those two, I'm not sure
I
who I'd go
genuinely
with.
feel like most World Cup squads, like if you've got 26 players, I would say 18 or 19 should be players that you are comfortable starting,
Yeah,
right? Everyone else is wild cards and they're there for a specific reason. Either they're there because you think they're going to be a super sub or they're there because you think they can take a penalty.
yeah,
Like England, if anyone, should understand the value of having penalty takers in the squad. Now, I know that we tried to do that in the final of the Euros, but who would you be more comfortable seeing go up to take a penalty? Saka or Ward Prowse? Gallagher or Ward Prowse?
yeah.
Like I would
Defo
put
Ward
Ward
Prowse.
Prowse every time there. And so like it's almost like having a designated hitter in a baseball team. Like when
Yeah,
you've got the extra players, Gallagher is not really going to offer us anything. Like
yes,
he's not a solid midfielder. He's not a passing midfielder. He can run. He's kind of like a Bellingham clone in some
yeah.
respects, but he's not as good as Bellingham.
No,
It's
no way.
that's a strange one for me because
It's
you can't look at the form and say Gallagher deserves to be there. You can't look at his previous England experience and say he deserves to be there. I think it's just for whatever
Southgate
reason,
likes him.
yeah. Or Southgate doesn't like Ward Prowse because Ward
Yeah,
Prowse tends to get eliminated right at the end of things anyway. He's always
yeah.
there or thereabouts, and then when it comes to picking a squad, they're not interested. It's
It,
interesting.
it's a bit like, can you remember France '98? I think we took Rob Lee, but Hoddle didn't want to take Gascoigne, and he took Rob Lee.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Bloke who was never gonna, at least like you're saying, at least Gascoigne could have come on at some point maybe and offered something, whereas Rob Lee was just sort of like, yeah, he was a decent player, but he was someone of nothing, wasn't he? Really?
It's I feel it's just England, really. I mean, I
Yeah,
feel like if you look at other squads, they don't seem to have players like that. I mean, when Germany won the World Cup, it was 8 years ago, and they had Christoph Kramer was in the squad, and no one thought he was going to play, and then he had to come on in the final after like 10 minutes, or he was like, well, maybe he was the one who was concussed in the final. It's a weird. I don't remember that World Cup too much. But there's a number of players who are in Germany are considered World Cup legends because they won the World Cup. You've not heard of them before or since. They just happen to be there in that squad. So I think Gallagher's really lucky. Jordan Henderson, we know, is a solid pair of hands.
yeah,
He will most likely be the first sub
yeah.
if we're trying to hold on to anything.
He's a
Well,
Southgate man as well, isn't he?
he
He's one
is,
of Southgate's
and
army.
I think Henderson probably deserves it. Like he's been a very, very good Premier League player
Yeah,
for over a decade. You know what you're going to get. He's not going to give you a great deal of anything, but it's going to be solid. He'll keep things ticking over. And again, Southgate. There's a lot of players here that have played a long time for Southgate, so
yeah,
it makes sense. There's no reason to not take him.
yeah. I mean, Bellingham's the one, isn't he? I think there's obviously more to come from him, but he's surely he's got to play, hasn't he?
Yeah, Yes, the start. I mean, I would have started him in flipping, 18 months ago in the Euros
Yeah.
when it was Rice and Phillips and it was kind of stodgy and
Yeah.
yes, we were defensive and all the rest of it. But Bellingham is the best midfielder since Gerrard. I mean, he really can do everything. And the fact that is he 19 yet? 19 in a bit.
He's
It's
about that
crazy.
age, isn't he?
Yeah, it's interesting. Is Bellingham the only one that doesn't play in England? I think so. I think he's the only
Got
one.
to be, hasn't he? Yeah. No, you're
He
looking
doesn't
at
play in
he
England.
is.
And everyone's talking about how, he's going to go, is it going to be Liverpool? Is it going to be Man City? Some team in England's going to buy him from Dortmund. I genuinely hope that he just stays abroad and doesn't get involved in the Premier League and just, goes to Real Madrid, goes to Barcelona. And then when he's 30-something, he goes back to Birmingham and plays there. Like, I'm really excited that someone like that England can produce a player like that who is just good enough to play wherever he wants in the world from day one. And like he's obviously, I imagine he's learned German. Do you know what I mean? It's a case of he can go anywhere. I really believe that he's that good.
So I mean, I've seen the Real Madrid links. Do you think he will the lure of the Premier League will be too much for him, or do you? I mean, if you like, obviously, I think he'll be moving on next season. Do you think the Premier League will be like he won't be able to turn it down if it's like Man City?
I think it depends on the manager.
Yeah.
Like if Pep's going to be around for 5 years, fair enough. But I don't think that's going to happen. If Klopp is going to be around, then fair enough. But I think I do think in the Premier League you're going to have a change within the next couple of years, right? Where those managers are going to say, "We've done this, we've completed it. We want to go somewhere else and try something different." And when that happens, the vacuum is pretty large. So I don't know it. I don't know the Bellinghams obviously, but I would like to think if they were smart enough at 16, 17 to send him to Dortmund, and he's mastered that very quickly, that I just hope that he stays away wherever it is. I really hope that he just goes and does what he wants to do, and isn't so fussed about anything else.
Yeah, I mean, and then obviously the other name we haven't mentioned, Southgate's very, 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 very favourite player, Mason Mount. You were happy with that inclusion?
Mason Mount is one of those players who you probably like when he plays well, he's vital, and if he doesn't play well, you just look at him and think, what is the point of you, right?
Where is he going to play?
Well, I mean, if he sticks to what he did in the Euros, then the front three will be Kane, Sterling, and Mount, right? Now, I don't think he's going to do that because you look at the list underneath, you would hope he's not. I think Mason Mount is, again, it depends on what we want to do and what stage of the competition we're in. But he's probably downgraded himself a little bit because if he's not going to start, he's not going to be your first choice to come on in either a defensive or an attacking role. So he may not get too many minutes. But like Mason Mount is a good player, but I don't really want to see too much of him, if I'm honest.
Southgate loves him. I think
all managers love him. He makes consistently good decisions, Mason Mount, and he's a very good footballer. But you look at him and you think, well, what is it that you're good at? And I think it is the decision making. He will knit things, and if you put him in front of goal, there's a good chance he's going to score. I would trust him to take a penalty, even though I haven't seen him ever do it. I just think that he's got the self-belief or the confidence to actually put it in the top corner and be okay. But it's enough for the squad, but I don't know how much we'll see him on the pitch.
Yeah, and onto the forwards then. So obviously Kane's going to start, absolute nailed on guarantee.
Imagine if Southgate didn't start him.
Southgate would never do that. He would never. He's the captain, and I just can't imagine Southgate ever doing anything as erratic or off script as that. Just can't imagine it. No. But I mean, obviously, Sterling guaranteed in the squad. You spoke earlier, you're not massively keen, but Sterling always going to be picked. Foden, still little bit more to see from Foden, I think, for England. Obviously, Go on. Sorry.
Can you talk about Foden? Right, there's a comment here that Daniel sent through about Jadon Sancho.
Yeah,
I love Jadon Sancho, the footballer. I genuinely think he's a brilliant, brilliant footballer. But his style of football is not what it's like Alexander-Arnold. His style of football is not what Southgate does. It's not what he wants. Sancho, and it's not what Man United do either, to be fair. But Jadon Sancho is one of those players. He'd be perfect at Arsenal because they love to have those little intricate passes around the box. That is Jadon Sancho's game to a T. But if you give him the ball 40 yards from goal and he's on the wing and say run at the defender, that's not his game. He doesn't want to do that. He wants to combine with other players. And I think there's a little bit of Foden there too. That Foden and Sancho would work well together because they both like doing those things. But if you want, let's say, an old school winger or an old school player who can beat a man when he comes on, then Saka can possibly do that. But Sancho is just much less likely to do it. And so weirdly enough, as much as I think Sancho is a brilliant footballer, and if you're going to pick talented footballers, he should go, he doesn't fit what Southgate wants to do. And that's unfortunate for Sancho, but it makes sense that he's not there. So that forward line, Foden, Grealish, and Maddison are pretty much the same thing in different ways, right? One's left-footed, one's particularly maverick, that would be Grealish, and Maddison seems to be the one who's actually putting it together right now. He's there on form. So you've basically got three players who can do that. Then you've got Saka and Sterling, who are, I guess, the tricky wide players.
Yeah.
And then you've got three centre forwards. As much as Rashford will probably play down the left more than anything, you've got three centre forwards. I'm happy that Callum Wilson is there. He's a really good finisher, and it's nice to see someone who's again kind of just come up through the ranks, played through all the leagues, and is now doing it at the Premier League level for a relatively big club now. 50,000 every week at Newcastle, and he scores good goals. It's not tap-ins.
No, he's a good player.
He's a good player, so I'm happy he's there.
When Wilson was leaving Bournemouth, me and my lad, I was keen on. There was talk about Spurs going for Wilson then, and I was keen on that. I thought he's the sort of player who could probably play with Kane if needs be, but ideal if you wanted to rest Kane. And obviously we didn't get him, but I like him. Are you surprised? Do you think it was between him and Ivan Toney?
Yeah, I do.
And what do you think swung it?
I mean, you can talk about the alleged betting issues that seem to be over Ivan Toney's head. I'd have taken Toney. If that was the reason to not take him, then that seems a bit crappy to me. But it's weird. Like Ivan Toney, but both Wilson and Toney take penalties, and that's a big thing for me.
Yeah.
Like if it's at the end of extra time and you're looking for penalty takers, you need to have some on the bench who do it not just competently but well. And Ivan Toney may well be almost the best, like even better than Kane in some respects, because he just there's no respect to the situation, right? He does what he wants to do. So yeah, like if Kane's out, I don't think Wilson would start in his spot. I think they'd probably put Rashford there, and I'm not sure I would agree with that choice, but I think that's what they would do. So it would have been Wilson or Toney, and the fact that Wilson's had a pretty good start to the year and Toney had those issues off the pitch, that it made Southgate's choice a little bit easier.
Yeah. I mean, and you look at this, everybody was screaming for Grealish in the Euros, and Southgate done as much as he could to give him as little time as possible. It really, everyone was shouting for him, and Southgate wasn't having a bar of it. And I think we'll probably have that scenario with Maddison. I'm glad he's picked Maddison, but very, very cynical. I think you might have said this as well, HG, but Southgate knows how to play the media, and that picking Maddison is a very good PR stunt for him. People will say, "Oh, play Southgate." He's gone off script. He's picked another attacking type player, but I don't think he'll use
there's
it
a
very
lot
often.
of attacking players there. Eight attackers split over. I think I was taking. I think I'd have taken maybe two or three strikers, two or three wingers. I almost separate them up. Right, your attacking midfielders are different to your wingers. Your wingers are going to be taking people on, hopefully getting a cross in, hopefully doing something if you're in need of a goal. Right, they may not start the game, but they'll come on and hopefully change it for you. Maddison's the most informed attacking midfielder. Really, he is.
which means he'll get no minutes.
And I think it doesn't matter who he's playing with. Kane would love playing with Maddison, just like Kane loves playing with Grealish, right? Like those players, like those attacking midfielders, want to have a centre forward to hit, right? And whether it's Kane or Wilson or possibly Rashford, that's going to help. But yeah, Maddison, it's very smart on Southgate's role. Even if Southgate has no intention of picking Maddison, he has made the next week and a half that much easier because the press aren't questioning him. Why not Maddison? And with 26 players, you can do that. You can take, you take one who's a bit injured, and you can take a wild card, and you can take someone to keep the press off your back. And taking Maddison will keep that press off. Like we could have 2 bad results in the first 2 games, and then you might hear a bit of a clamour for Maddison. Why isn't he come on? Why isn't he doing anything? But for Southgate, those 10 days, what was it, 2 weeks? Once we played 2 games, that's huge for him. It really is huge. Like the English press don't help the English team at all. And so for us to be sitting here talking about who has gone rather than who hasn't gone is a win, a massive win for Southgate.
Yeah. So when I look at that, Kane and Sterling for me, not saying it should be, but Kane and Sterling will start games, I think, and then I don't, depending on what you think, if he'll go. I think he'll go 3 up top or Kane up top with Sterling and one other behind him. And when I look at that list, I probably think he likes Saka, doesn't he? I think he really likes Saka. So I think you got to choose between Foden and Saka, and I think I've got a feeling he'll go with Saka.
It's a really tough one.
Yeah.
Right, because the 3-5-2 that we use to get to the Euros, that will change because Phillips is out.
Yeah.
So if you stick Bellingham in over Phillips, well, that makes the team already slightly more attacking. So Southgate might think, you know what, I'll keep Mount, and it'll be Mount, Kane, and Sterling up top because that's what I'm used to doing.
Possibly, yeah.
I agree with you that I think there are better options, and we want to be a bit more forward thinking, especially in the first game, but in any of those group games. As much as Iran and America and Wales have the ability to hurt us, we have more ability to hurt them. We shouldn't be worried.
If we tipped up against Iran and he played Rice and Phillips in midfield, I'd be turned to being inclined to just pick up the control and go bang. I ain't watching. There's absolutely no need. Don't get me wrong. No disrespect to Iran, like you said. Maybe the USA, I think, probably got a little bit more about them. But Iran, surely that is a game you've got to be saying, we need to get off here. 3 points. None of this fannying around trying to, control the game. Or, obviously you want to control the game. But, let's sit deep and let's a little bit like what Spurs do. You just think to yourself, let's try and get an early goal and maybe get 2 or 3 and then bring some players off, if possible.
Yeah, that's what we should be doing. If our first game was Spain or Portugal or Germany or someone big, then you don't want to lose that first game.
No, of course you don't. No.
And you don't want to lose any game.
No.
But it's Iran. I'm saying, again, none of us know anything about the Iranian players, right?
No.
But I don't think the Iranian Messi, whoever that player is that's been given that moniker, should be something that Spurs, that England have to worry about.
Yeah.
I would like to see it, a 3-4-3 with Saka and an attacking midfielder like Foden or Maddison or Grealish with Kane. That's what should happen. We should be forced, because again, if we did decide to kind of push people forward, then you could have a back 4 and have Walker at right back and Stones and Maguire or whoever.
And Shaw left,
and then Shaw at left back. And if Trippier becomes a right midfielder just doing Beckham crosses all day long, I'm okay with that too. So there is some flexibility, but we have to be we have to strike while the iron is hot and kind of put our foot down on teams, because traditionally England haven't done that under Southgate.
No.
And whereas 4 years ago you might have said, well, we don't have the players to do it, I think we do now.
Yeah,
we really do.
I think you've got to be looking at going into the Iran game, winning that game, winning it as early as you can, and getting players off. Going into the USA game, that's going to be a tougher game, probably the toughest in the group. So if you've got 3 points under your belt already, don't know what's going to happen in the other game, you go into that, you can be a little bit more conservative, and however you win that, you win it. You got 6 points, you're more or less through. You go to the Wales game. Now, Kane and players like that will play, but there's room for Wales will be more of a sort of a derby, but I think there'll be more room for manoeuvre with players in that. Say if you've been playing Saka, you should be able to bring a Foden in. If you've, you know what I mean, Sterling, you should be able to bring a Grealish in or a Maddison. Do you get what I mean? HG against Wales, and it's not like playing, say like Argentina or Brazil or Belgium. You know, you can change some players in that, and it can still be a competitive game that you probably still should be favourites to win.
I mean, it's very difficult to look past the group stages, right?
Yeah.
Because you shouldn't.
No, absolutely.
But by the same token, you'd be foolish not to, right?
Yeah.
Like you see what group we're in. Like we know that we're in the next round. We're going to play someone from Group A, which is what Senegal, Netherlands, Qatar, and Ecuador. Right?
Yeah.
So, like, as long as you avoid the Dutch, whatever position they end up in, you think, okay, suddenly you've got a winnable round of 16 game. So, even though you don't want to get ahead of yourself, you have to understand that what you want to do is pace yourself.
Yeah.
Like, if that means win your first 2 games and not care so much for number 3 because you're basically through anyway, then you can maybe change things up. But you've got to win those first 2 games.
Yeah.
And the best way to do that is to go out and just score, right?
Yeah.
And actually really put some attacking players out there because, like I think America has some very good individuals.
Yeah.
But I'm not sure I trust their manager to find a really good team. So it's just like if you win the first 2, certainly the Iran game, you've got to go out there thinking we're going to win the Iran game and then we look at things again.
Yeah.
But by doing that, you also have to think, well, later on down the line, because we've got 32 teams and all the games are happening in a very short space of time, 4 days rest between the games. Like when you get to if England are fortunate enough to get to the quarterfinals, you don't want to have flogged the same players for every game.
And I don't think there's any need.
No, exactly. And it's weird because England have been accused in the past of doing just what I'm talking about. Like focusing further down the line. Oh, we've got Iceland. We'll beat them easily. Who's next? Right?
Yeah.
But this is slightly different. I don't want us to take any game easily, but just to understand that, you know what, we can go 3-4-3 or even 4-3-3 in the Iran game.
Yeah.
And say, right, we're going to get our attacking players hopefully moving, hopefully going. And in the next game against America, well, you go back to a 3 at the back that you're used to doing. And in the Wales game, I'm sure we'll see 3 at the back. It's just a little bit of not creativity, but just understanding that not every game is the same. And if you win that first game, you've got 1 foot in the next stage automatically just by winning that first game.
Right. Yeah, absolutely, HG. So, talking about the Iran game, I believe this is a team that you gave John, think, to start the Iran game, is it?
It's what I think Southgate will do. Yeah, that's what that is. Like, and I don't think it will be a 5-3-2 per se. It just fits the graphic better to have Foden a bit deeper. But I suspect it would be Foden and Sterling switching wings, and Kane would be the middle one. That's what I think he'll do for that first game because it's very close to the team that he's been playing for the last 4 years. Really, I mean that back 3 probably all played in the World Cup in Russia. I know Dyer played a lot at that tournament, but those players were there. Yeah. So I think that's probably what I expect from Southgate in that first game. As much as I don't want to see that, that's what I think is going to happen.
Yeah, and there's some decent attacking talent in that squad, isn't there? In that team you've got there, that is a decent team. And like you said, you got to be looking at that thinking that can beat Iran. Do you, as under Southgate, have we ever gone 4-2-3-1? Is that something we've ever done?
In certain games, I think we have, but I think he's adamant that in games that he thinks are important, we're going to see 3 centre backs. I think if it's a Nation League game that doesn't really matter, he might switch it around.
Try something. Yeah.
Excuse me. But so it's again, I don't love it, but I do think that's what Southgate will do. I absolutely do. Yeah.
So and then we've got another team that you put, and he's put a nice little picture of it, John. So this team here then, is this what you'd like to see, HG?
It's what I'd like to see for the Iran game, Just the Iran game. I know it says my team for the World Cup at the top, but no, just the Iran game. Like I put Pope in, it can be Pickford. I don't really care about the goalkeeper, but that is kind of what I think would work. I've seen a couple of comments about, what does Rashford do? Right here, there's the one. It's what Rashford offers nothing to no one. Do you know what? I completely understand that. I really do. I just, if I'm Kane, right? I want runners to pass the ball through to. Something basically what Son does, really.
Yeah.
I don't trust. Like if Sancho was there, then maybe, but who else is going to make those runs? Sterling doesn't have a shot on him, so I don't think Kane and Sterling to me have never really been that good together. They've one of them scores, either Kane scores or Sterling scores, but not both. So it's considering the squad that he's picked. If you're going to go 4-3-3. I think Maddison deserves it because he's playing well. I don't really care if he's never played for England before, only once. He's the most in form of those. I would like to see that happen. Kane and Rashford, I get the whole Rashford thing. Foden a bit deeper makes sense to me. I see that Foden usually plays as one of the the outside attacking midfielders for Man City. I think he could do what Gundogan does for them, actually sit a bit deeper and kind of dictate things more. I don't know why he plays so far forward, really, when I don't think he needs to. Rice and Bellingham pick themselves, and I think the back four probably picks themselves. Maguire and Shaw have played together for years, so that makes a bit of sense to me. Stones is the next best option for a centre back, and Trippier. If it's Trippier or Alexander-Arnold, well, I probably would go Trippier.
And I think Southgate's going to go Trippier. I think Trent Alexander-Arnold's been picked by default, really, and I don't mean that because he's useless. I mean because I don't think Southgate rates him. I think Southgate would have picked obviously Reece James all day long over.
If Reece James is
and
fit,
he likes Trippier.
If Reece James is fit, he's first choice. Like whether it's wing back or full back, he's first choice for me. He's that good. But I mean, so that team, like I understand, it's not going to happen. Certainly not a 4-3-3. But if you were going to pick players to actually, to offer some threat, like Kane can drop deep and Rashford can be the main striker in that situation.
Yeah.
And he's comfortable coming off the left anyway. So I think there's a lot there that could work. But I mean, that's not going to happen. I know that.
Yeah. And next level English, Rashford, Hendo, Dyer, Cody there because they are mature and work hard. Yeah, probably right, mate. We're not saying that's what we agree with, but yeah, that's why he's picked them. He likes to pick his favourites.
As I said, like if you've got 18 players that you think you can trust to start games, are good enough to start for England in big games, that gives you 5 to 8 players that are there for specific reasons. If that's penalty taking, if that's they're good around the camp, if that whatever it is, like 26 is a lot of players.
Yeah.
When you were talking about 23. Right? It always used to be like, well, if you've got 3 keepers, then you've got 2 for every position. And that seems fine until you start thinking, but, maybe I want to take all 3 attacking midfielders.
Yeah.
Like who it becomes 26 makes everything a whole lot easier. So I mean, the question here, no, Trent is good enough to play in those games, but he doesn't suit Southgate's system, so I don't think he's going to play him. I think you feel the same way about this, Gibbo.
I think Trent Alex, his delivery is first class, brilliant. Great technique, a real weapon out on the on that side of the pitch. But I just don't think Southgate likes him, and I'm not here defending Southgate. We're just going to talk about what we think and what we think Southgate will do. On a personal note, I think Southgate, the way he coaches and his mindset, when we played Italy in the final of the Euros, I think it was down on him why we sort of 1-0 up and why we didn't win in the end. But I don't think he'll change. I don't think he'll change tact. I think he does what he does, and I think he's a very risk-averse manager. And when you play players like Trent Alexander-Arnold, who like to try and knock cross-field balls and put balls into the area, I don't think that's Southgate's bag.
Like 4 years ago, when Southgate went to the World Cup in Russia, and he picked a very, very pragmatic side that were set pieces. Kane wins the Golden Boot, but really doesn't play that well. Like, all of those things are absolutely true, and at the time, it made sense because you had, Dele and Lingard and Loftus-Cheek went,
Yeah,
and Phil Jones went. And so, if you look at the squad that went to the Russia World Cup, there's a bunch where you're like, "Oh my, really?" We've got better players now, but the problem is that when you have better players, you dream a bit bigger. We can
yeah,
do more. Foden is a quality footballer. There's no doubt about that.
yeah.
But how do you get a team that can allow him to do what he does for City? We don't have the players that can do what City
No.
players can do. So it's then about building it. And you just think that had the results not been as good as they had been by getting to the semis and the final, we might see a more progressive side. But because they were so good, you can understand why Southgate is reticent to change it. Because
Yeah,
you've got to get to the big games to have a chance of winning them. And as we saw before, the golden generation with Gerrard and Ferdinand and Scholes and everyone, they never got past the quarter final. So
yeah,
there is something to be said for what Southgate's doing. But I do think that for a lot of England fans, it's frustrating now because we
yeah.
didn't have a good Nations League campaign. We've not
No.
played well, really, England, for a while. And yet the desire to change things up and do something a bit different isn't there. And
Yeah,
if that first game doesn't go the way that Southgate wants, then he will start to hear it.
yeah.
He absolutely will start to hear it.
And this seems extremely strange to say because I'll come on to Rayner's question in a minute, but from a Spurs point of view,
Mhm.
Harry Kane is almost England's record goal scorer. But I don't think I think the way Southgate plays makes Kane look shit. I do.
Yeah,
I do.
yeah,
Look, one of the best games Kane played was. Can you remember when we played Spain? I think that might have been in the Nations League, and
mhm,
he was dropping deep, and I think he had Sterling and Rashford off him, and
yeah,
he was phenomenal that game, and he just kept dropping deep, picking up the ball and playing people through. But I mean, I've watched some games for England. I've not watched all of them recently because I find it pretty boring. But
mhm,
and I've watched Kane, and I've thought, if you didn't know
yeah,
if you didn't know who he was and what he'd done before, you'd think this bloke's just a cart horse up front.
yeah.
I
No,
genuinely,
I completely agree. Like Kane is the type of player who is in the right position
yeah,
always. Right? If he needs to drop deep, he'll drop deep. If he needs to be in the box, he's usually there.
yeah,
But you take that Spurs team from 5 years ago when we were flying. He had Dele making runs, he had Ericsson
yeah,
making runs, he had Son in the side. Like you had the fullbacks bombing forward. So
yeah,
even though he didn't drop deep as much then, it didn't matter so much because he had Ericsson behind him. So he didn't even need to. Right now, because Kane has proven himself to be so good at so many things, like the strength of the team is almost less because of it. Because
yeah,
we see the comment here. I'll go back to Reiner's thing in a second, but the
yeah,
one that next time Sterling is a big problem. Yeah, like Sterling has the pace that Kane doesn't, and if
yeah,
Rashford isn't playing well, and Rashford's been injured for a couple of years, like where's that pace coming from? That's the thing. So Sterling, I understand why he's being played there because Southgate thinks we need to have some kind of threat. But to me, Sterling is like doesn't pass and can't shoot. Absolutely. Like it's
yeah,
really true. But the fact that he has that speed scares the crap out of defenders. Genuinely does. Even though I don't think that Sterling is actually a good footballer at all, I understand the logic of playing him. I just think that by taking him out and since Rashford is fit now, having Rashford on the left, the side has more weapons about it.
yeah,
Like it gives the defense more things to worry about. Kane can drop deep, or he can be part of it. Like Rashford can go wide left if he needs to, and he plays there with Shaw as well. So you'd see maybe some link between those
yeah.
two.
Bit of
Madison
chem,
or
as they say
whoever,
on FIFA.
yeah, Madison or whoever would do the same thing. Like he'll go wherever he needs to go. And if you've got a solid three, let's say behind, if it was a 4-3-3, you could have a solid three and allow for a little bit of just go and do your own thing, right?
Yeah,
I look at some of the better teams. I mean, very few of the squads that I've seen so far for this World Cup. You look at it and you think that 11 is foolproof. I don't think there's a massive favourite for this competition.
no,
Every country is looking to mask its weakness, right? And so it's just that can we maybe enhance our strength a little bit more? And I think that in this case, Sterling is one of those that the team could be better if he's not in it. I genuinely, that's not to say he's the bad player. What he's very good at, he is very good. 5-yard bursts around the penalty box, brilliant. Sterling can win you a penalty when your eyes are shut. Like, you just do it. But if you ask Sterling to run the channels or to be a partner for someone, I don't think it's there. I don't think he can do it.
And the comment you just made there, HG, what not masking? What did you just say about sort of like extending our strengths? I don't know how. I can't remember. I was listening. Enhance our strengths. That is what Southgate is very reticent to do. That's
pragmatism first and foremost, and that's a shame, because like I don't look at any of our attacking midfielders and think that they're not they are going to defend. They're going to be part of the team. Like, Saka's going to get back and help out, probably more than Sterling would. And I think he'd be better at doing it more than Sterling would. Like, you have one attacking player who is who jinks a lot. He's not a straight line runner. He's good at the ball at his feet, and he can move in different directions very quickly. I would have Saka over Sterling every day of the week. And Saka can find the back of the net. Sterling scores because other people do the work.
Yeah, he's a back post. He's a back post.
And that's that's an important thing to have.
Yeah.
But not from the start of every game.
No. Right. I want to go back to, I thought, Rayner's question. Thanks for coming on, Rayner. So his Next Level English has had some good input as well, to be fair. Thanks, mate. But Rayner, which player of Southgate's squad is the most underrated in your opinion and has the greatest potential to make his breakthrough in this tournament? HG.
I mean, breakthrough, like onto a world scale.
Well, I think let's take it and say, who do you think's the most underrated, and who do you think's going to have a breakthrough tournament? For instance, like Foden is fantastic for City, but I don't think he's hit anywhere near those heights for England yet, has he? But I'm not convinced he's going to be a starter.
Like, if we're talking about, like, I mean, underrated in the English squad, I don't think anyone is particularly underrated. Certainly for English fans, we all know what we're going to get. Right? I do think that. But if you look at it from a world perspective, it's going to be the players that don't play Champions League football, because the world will have seen those ones pretty regularly if they play for City or some of the big ones. So anyone who plays for Arsenal, cheap gag there. Anyone who plays for Arsenal will be new to the Champions League crowd. You can't. To me, Declan Rice has the ability to be a bit of everything. Maybe European football doesn't know him too well, although he's played good level games for England, so he's been around despite being still quite young. Maddison is the key one there. I can't look past Maddison. He's always been good, right? But because he wasn't part of that Leicester side that won the league, he's been not toiling, but playing with good players, but at Europa League level, at Conference League level, wherever they were with Leicester. And I think that, like, if he gets to play with better players, which he might do for England, you'll see something different. So underrated outside of England, I think it's Maddison. Inside of England, I feel like
Kane.
If you're not a Spurs fan, you hate Kane. Clearly, that's a decent comment. That really is. It's because like that squad, we know them all so well. We really do. It's like if Tomori was there, not many England players or England fans have seen Tomori play for Milan. We don't really know what he's like, not week in, week out. It's a rough one. There's no 19-year-old future superstar in that squad. Oh, sorry, Bellingham. But Bellingham's not a future superstar. He is one already.
Superstar already, yeah.
Yeah.
So, right, we have a couple of quick-fire ones. Is this the worst team we have ever sent to a World Cup?
I want to say no to that, but I don't remember the team that went to 2014 that lost the first two games and were out. I commentated those games, but I couldn't. I know Sturridge was in there.
Truly forgettable, wasn't it?
Yeah. So the worst team. Like if they don't lose their first two games, then no, they're not the worst team. And I don't think they will. But that was the draw. Like we had to play Italy and Uruguay in that World Cup, and this time
Yeah.
it's Iran and America. Like
Yeah.
that's a massive difference.
Yeah, it should be, shouldn't it?
Yeah, it's the worst team. No, I have to say no to that, Keith. I mean, Keith's probably seen more World Cups than I have, but I can't believe this is the worst one.
Yeah.
Not with the striker like Kane, who's that good.
Next level English. It's supposed to be our best chance in '66. We've been saying that every World Cup we've played. I think I've heard that comment.
Does he mean for this World Cup, or
I'm not sure, but I think we just say it. It's always said.
Probably the last Euros. That might have been what you meant. Like we were at home, so of course, like the last Euros was our best chance to win something because every game bar one was in England. Like you don't get to do that really. Certainly not when England aren't going to host another tournament in my lifetime. I don't think they will. So that was the best thing. Yeah, Keith saw 66. Yeah. So
that's it, Keith. You're the winner.
I feel like you're asking me something that maybe you have already decided. I don't know. I don't remember the 82 team. The 86 was the first one I kind of remember.
Yeah.
1990 semi-finals. I mean, so it's we didn't go to 94, 98. Oh, that was the Beckham year.
Yeah.
Enough, the only one I haven't seen is 2002. I didn't watch that World Cup at all. So I'm going to say they were the worst side because it had Nicky Butt and Trevor Sinclair and Danny Mills.
Yeah.
That's worse than the ones we have now. I think that.
Yeah. But so that's HG. So we've gone through that. I mean, people are talking in the comments about players. We've had some really good interaction in the comments tonight, and this show was only meant to go on for 20 minutes, but we've managed to go on for an hour now. And if there's people on here who aren't Spurs fans who have joined in just to talk about England, we're not during this World Cup. We're not. I mean, I don't know about you, HG. I'm looking forward to the World Cup, but I'm not necessarily. I used to be a big England fan. I still am England now. I want them to win. I'm English, but I'm excited about watching the other teams. I don't think me and you are going to come on here just to like big England up and just talk England derby. We want to talk about all different teams in the World Cup and different things, and we're happy to take anybody's opinion. I don't think me and you have got either any strong opinions on England or are going to defend them. I think we'll be quite balanced in our opinions when people ask questions.
Clearly behind us,
yeah.
We're going to be probably every now and again a little bit Spurs biased, but you know what? I don't want to see Dyer start.
Absolutely not.
Players in it, Dyer and Kane, right? So when it comes to England, I don't think the bias will come out. But I think you and I, we both just love football.
Yeah,
and I'm very lucky that with my job, I will get to watch a lot of the games, even the ones that start at like 1 o'clock in the afternoon your time.
Yeah,
I feel privileged that it's going to happen. Yes, I don't want it to be in Qatar, and I don't like any of that nonsense. But it's a World Cup, and like they don't happen very often. You don't know how many you're going to get to see. It's a massive, exciting thing, and I want to see what Argentina are like. I think Argentina might go on and win it all. That's the sneaky one for me. And honestly, personally, I'd love that to happen because I'm Messi. I'm Team Messi. I want Ronaldo to just live and have to deal with that for the rest of his life.
Yeah.
That Messi won the World Cup and he didn't. It's awful. I know that's really pedantic and crappy.
Yeah.
But
I know you said HG that there's no real great squad out there. So I think when you talk about people who are going to win it, I think you just sort of like I fancy Argentina. Don't know. I've got no massive reasoning behind it. I just fancy that. I just got a feeling for them. Do you get what I mean? I think that's what a lot of people have got hunches and I think that's why it'll be quite a good. That's why I think it might be footballing wise. Hopefully it'll be decent because there's a lot of sort of not mediocre but good teams. Do you know what I mean? There's some good teams, aren't there?
I think you can look at certain squads. If you look at the French squad and you think, oh wow, that's some serious strength in depth.
Yeah.
But they've got like 5 or 6 centre backs.
Yeah.
Why? I don't know why they've taken so many when they've got one right back and one left back, and both of them can play centre back if needed. So and France, despite winning the last tournament, they've lost at home to Denmark a couple of times. I think Denmark's in their group. Like France are that kind of team where if they don't get a good result, they could be out quite quickly. So there's no one, even the German side, when you think, well, German efficiency and their mentality, they always get to the quarterfinals / semi-finals at least. Like I was talking with my German friend earlier today, trying to pick an 11 from their squad. It's tough because it doesn't really stand out saying this guy's the first choice right back.
Yeah.
Are you going to play 2 centre-backs or 3 centre-backs? I feel like a lot of teams, they don't really know what they want to do. Like the Dutch, considering they always do the same under Van Gaal, you know what they're going to do. But then that Dutch side has a lot of talent, but with them, it's always mentality that's an issue. I'm genuinely excited to see what's going to happen because in many occasions, it will be the best team on the day. I genuinely think that we'll see a lot of weird results. I have a feeling that Qatar will do something that we don't expect them to do. Even if they get a bit of dodgy referee help, I think Qatar will probably make the last 16. I mean, they're in a group where it's possible. And after that, who knows? But it feels a very, very open World Cup.
Yeah.
And
like,
that's a great thing.
Like Adrian's just said there, and before he came with that, I was going to say Denmark are a good team. They've got some great players, Denmark have. No real superstars, but decent teams. And like Daniel's putting here, Senegal, maybe. I don't know a lot about the African teams. But I think what me and HG are going to do, I think next week we're looking at a show where we're going to try and plot how the World Cup, we're going to get hold of some planners. HG's had a little go tonight. I've had a little go. And I think some point next week, we're gonna do a show where we plot the matches to the groups, and then we'll go through the knockouts to the final. So if you're in the chat tonight and you're not a Spurs fan and you don't follow us on the socials, please follow and come and watch these World Cup shows and get involved. We're relying on your input as much as ours, and we're just going to try and keep these things ticking over whilst the World Cup's on.
Exactly. Nobody wants to hear my voice this often. They really don't. Like, we love your comments because your comments help us. Otherwise, it's just me talking in my own little kind of, in my own echo chamber a little bit. Like, I want to hear people's thoughts. I think that most football fans have ideas about how the game can or should be played. And if someone wants to come on here and tell me how good Raheem Sterling is, brilliant. I will disagree with you, but brilliant. Like we need those comments coming in. I don't know how often we're going to have shows, but we want to have shows pretty often during the World Cup. And there are so many games every day that even if we sit here and say this player was good, and we know nothing about them, but they did really well in that game, and we can talk about it because I think the final game finishes at about 9 p.m. UK time every night. So we're going to have a bit of time at the end of the day to talk about what's happened. And I honestly don't want to listen to Alan Shearer say the same things or the same people trotting out the same stuff. Let's talk to each other and see what we think.
Yeah. So thanks for everybody. We're going to knock it on the head there tonight. Thanks for everybody who's been involved in the chat. Like I said, follow us on the socials. If you've got any ideas that you'd like or things you might want, questions you might want bringing up, you can DM either of us on Twitter. These are our Twitter handles on the screen. But just please keep getting involved. And usually we say, come on, you Spurs. I don't think we're going to say, come on, you Three Lions HG. We're just going to say, come on, the football.
The beautiful game, right? Like we can say down with Qatar at the end of every show. Or like FIFA, a corrupt bar at the end of every show. But football is the best game in the world. We all love it. That's why we're here. And we just want to promote football and enjoyment because there's a lot of crap going on in the world and people can't afford various things that they should be able to afford. And football, if it provides something for the next 4 or 5 weeks, it'd be a great run up to Christmas. Absolutely great.
And hopefully now and then we'll get a couple of extra guests on. So you haven't got to see our two mugs all the time. But thanks for getting involved and see you soon.
Yeah.